Still on Black Anyone Who Had a Heart. Now, Andrew McDonald was until April of this year in charge of the organisation which oversees and regulates MPs' pay and expenses. He stepped down as chief executive of the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, IPSA, because he has prostate cancer. And he spoke to us very candidly about that in April, explaining how these small decisions of everyday life become very different when you think your life is short. He pondered whether to bother repairing a shoe, for example, or start reading a particular book that might take a long time. Andrew's also started suffering from vertigo, and this causes him spells of severe dizziness, which can be very debilitating. The condition isn't connected to his cancer, but it has a big impact on what remains of his life. So what is it like to have vertigo? Can't believe we've never talked about this before. 0500 288 291. You can call, email vine@bbc.co.uk. Andrew's with us now. Hi to you.
Jeremy, hello. Great to be back.
And Dr. Barry Seemungal is on the line, who's a consultant neurologist from Imperial College London with special interest in this. So tell us, Andrew, how it came on.
I simply woke up one morning and went to get up, and I found that everything was spinning, and I had to go and lie down straight away, otherwise I'd have fallen over.
And we talked before about your diagnosis of cancer, and obviously there's a lot of medication involved in that. Is one or the other causing the vertigo?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a condition, and to give it its full grand name, it's benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, which is quite common, and I think it's in no way related to my other conditions, but it's something that causes a lot of misery to a lot of people.
When we hear the word vertigo, we think often of this.
Vertigo, a feeling of dizziness, a swimming in the head. Figuratively, a state in which all things seem to be engulfed in a whirlpool of terror, as created by Alfred Hitchcock in the story that gives new meaning to the word suspense.
And I know you love your movies. You will think of that clock tower that the final scene of the film is. It's not fear of heights, this, is it? That's different.
Fear of heights is something called arachophobia, and people who experience that do experience a dizziness, but what I'm talking about is something quite distinct from that. It's caused by a disturbance in the inner ear. It's nothing to do with fear of heights. And the thing that lots of people are unaware of, and certainly I was, is that there are exercises you can do to make it better.
Okay. Before you tell us about them, just talk about how it affected you.
Well, when I went to see the GP, he said to me, and captured it perfectly, Andrew, this is horrible, but it won't last. And the horrible bit was entirely fair. And I've had, as you say, a number of things which one way or another have gone wrong with me. I think only shingles gets close in terms of how miserable this is, because your perception of the world around you is completely affected. You don't want to move your head a millimetre in any direction because things start swimming inside your head. You feel nausea. You can't look at a computer screen, at a television. You can't read. You just want to stay absolutely still.
So walking across the road is difficult?
You wouldn't want to get out of the house to go across the road, is my experience.
Wow. So you're almost on hands and knees.
I found lying flat on my back was the best thing to do.
And you can then, if you stabilise your head, you don't get it. Is that right?
More or less, yeah.
Okay, we will come to the thing that you've done that helps. It's very important. But first to Barry Seemungal, consultant neurologist with a special interest in dizziness. Barry, I guess Andrew's story is one you've heard before.
Yes, quite often. Unfortunately, dizziness is a very common problem. However, fortunately, there are clear-cut and effective treatments according to the specific diagnosis. So, in fact, we don't know the true instance of vertigo. Just to very briefly reiterate Andrew's point about vertigo. Vertigo is something that we define as a sensation that you or your environment are moving. And the movement is commonly spinning, like a merry-go-round, as Andrew described. However, it can also be falling or rocking or linear motion. For many people listening, they may not have experienced vertigo. A good analogy is the sensation of self-motion that you might feel sitting on a train at the platform, waiting for your train to move off, and the train passes by your train, and you feel that you and the train are moving erroneously. So in fact, vertigo is an illusion of self-motion. And this illusion is very disorienting, and it can cause psychological problems, but also physical problems like falls and can lead to what looks like agoraphobia, which is a psychological problem in which patients have a fear of leaving their house. But in fact, it's not a fear of leaving the house, it's an inability to leave the house because of this debilitating vertigo.
Okay, now, Andrew, what did you do that helped?
Well, I discovered the solution after the worst phase of the vertigo had passed. A friend of mine said, I have exactly this condition. What you need to do is something called the Epley maneuver, named after John Epley, who came up with these exercises. And essentially, a doctor twists your head in one direction or the other, and the ear affected can be identified by when you turn your head, for example, to the right and you groan in pain. That's where the problem is. And then the Epley maneuvers seek to correct the problem in the middle ear. You repeat them about 3 times, and in most cases, the worst of the problem is sorted out. But in what I found was that both my GP and the doctor in A&E, when I was at my worst on a Saturday, didn't know about the Epley maneuvers.
And you need another person to do it. You can't do it on your own.
I think once you're taught how to do them, you can do them yourself. But certainly, and there are lots of YouTube videos which show how to do them.
So it's Epley, E-P-L-Y.
Exactly so.
Okay, people can look it up. Stay with us. Andrew McDonald here talking to us about vertigo. Thanks to Dr. Barry Seemungal. Got calls coming in now on this. 0500 288 291. Just seen a tweet from somebody who bashed his head not even that badly and got it.
I push all my problems through the back.
Katie B and Crying for No Reason on BBC Radio 2. Coming up later, in fact coming up soon, Steve Wright in the afternoon with Barry Manilow. Isn't that amazing? And then Simon Mayo just building up to the Coldplay moment, which is after Paul Jones at 8 o'clock with Joe Wiley. Coldplay in concert live. Meanwhile, we're talking about vertigo. Sandra Ryan in Birmingham. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And you just had a little bit of a virus or something, Sandra?
Yes, it was started like a cold or something, and a virus. I collapsed at work, and from that I've developed vertigo, and I've had the Epley
Maneuver.
procedure.
Yeah.
And it works for a while, but then you do something and it comes back. But all I've been told now is I've got to learn to live with it.
So they can't give you a pill. They can't really do anything.
No.
That's a bore.
It is, yes. It was also very expensive because I had to give up work.
Oh, and you had to redesign your kitchen and stuff, I gather.
Yes, I've had to readapt my kitchen. The whole house has been readapted.
So how did you redesign your kitchen?
Everything's above eye level, so I've only got to stretch up for things. I've never got to bend down for things.
That's amazing. So you have a handrail and all of that, do you?
Yes, I've had handrails fitted round the house so that if I'm walking, if I feel I'm dizzy, I can grab hold of the handrail and steady myself to stop myself falling. But I don't go outside unless I'm accompanied by one of my family.
So you can't just wander off down the high street?
No.
Really?
No.
Andrew, what do you think of this, listening to this? Sounds terrible.
Sandra, you have my every sympathy. In my case, I've had it for bouts of a week at a time, and it's mercifully gone away. The prospect of having to live with it so often, I'm really horrified by that.
Must get you down, Sandra.
You don't let it. You don't become a victim to it. You've got to learn to fight it. So it doesn't rule you. You rule it.
Good for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your call. Bless you. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, people ringing in about this. Can't believe we've never discussed it before. Gwyneth Dunbar in Kingham says, I've had a problem with vertigo my whole life. I was hit by a brick lorry when I was 3 years old. I had problems with my sinuses from that point on. If I just lift my arms above my head, I get vertigo. Therese Lawrence in Eynsham says, I've suffered vertigo for 2 years. Sometimes I would be bedbound for days, but having a hearing aid put in changed my life, and I don't suffer from it. Interesting. Andrew Webster is in Burton-on-Trent and says, I had a motorcycle accident that left me with temporary vertigo. I had an attack on a beach that left me vomiting and incapable of standing up. I was rushed to hospital where the vertigo was diagnosed. My wife performed the Epley manoeuvre on me, and fortunately I've not had any problems since. I've got a huge amount of sympathy for those affected by vertigo because it's a horrible, debilitating illness. Let's hear from one more. Ruth Harding in Mountain Ash in the beautiful Rhondda Valley. Hi, Ruth.
Hiya, Jeremy.
You got it in 2007.
Yeah. I collapsed in work and, well, just felt giddy ever since. And then in 2011, I collapsed in work again. And basically since then, the vertigo has increased. I've got anxiety on top of that. And I've basically had to give up everything that I do and enjoy. Work, walking mountains, going to concerts. I'm virtually housebound at the moment. And
just because of a balance problem in probably just one of your ears, is that right?
Well, I don't really know. I've been diagnosed with MS, so I'm not sure whether it's a symptom of that. I've been told by one neurologist who showed me my brain scan that there was a lesion on my brain which could have been causing the vertigo, and then another neurologist told me that wasn't necessarily so.
And do you find that even a carpet can set it off?
Oh, terrible. Stripy carpets, cinemas. Years ago I went to Vegas. The carpets there were, well, just made me feel sick, horrendous.
Gosh, I wish there was some solution. Andrew, you're lucky you're at the narrow end of it, I think.
Absolutely. And I think what Ruth's case shows and Sandra's case that shows is there are a number of different types of vertigo. And sadly, in Ruth's case, it sounds as though it's deep-seated and clearly affects a lot of her life. With others, like myself, I'm fortunate it's episodic, and these exercises can shift it.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thanks, Ruth. Bless you for calling. And, it just sounds terrible. Andrew McDonald as well. Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure.
Hope you get well soon. Peter Townsend has called and he says, vertigo is like constantly living on the edge of a cliff.
750